There have been a lot of things to talk about when it comes to the Chicago Blackhawks, but trading Alex DeBrincat is one that I didn't think was going to be on the table. So, let's go over the Chicago Blackhawks, their entire situation as of late, and all of the conversations surrounding Alex DeBrincat, one of the better players on this team, one of the younger players on this team, and his status potentially as an available trade option. So, the reason we're discussing Chicago and DeBrincat once again is because a few days ago on Sportsnet 650 here in Vancouver, Frank Seravalli of Daily Faceoff made himself an appearance that pretty much set the hockey world on fire. He said, the only untouchables for the Chicago Blackhawks were Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, and Seth Jones. If you want to take a run for trading anyone else, they will listen. Now, this is kind of strange because you take a look at the Chicago Blackhawks and you say, okay, they've got a leadership core that has carried them through Stanley Cups and Stanley Cups and Stanley Cups. They've got young guys on the team. They've got valuable guys on the team. Patrick Kane, Toews, I could understand why they wouldn't want to trade these guys. They've been the heart and soul of Chicago for the past decade and a bit here. Seth Jones, honestly, I could understand why they want to keep this guy around. They just signed him to a massive extension. He's making so much money. And honestly, I think if the Chicago Blackhawks even wanted to trade a Seth Jones, I don't think they'd be able to, just because of how much he costs and the quality of his play. Sure, he's producing points, but there's a reason all of his advanced analytics are in the negative, despite the fact that he's got a pretty good goal and assist rate this year. Which leaves us with everybody else on the team. You take the Chicago Blackhawks and you remove Kane, Toews, and Jones. Who are you left with? Okay, you're left with some guys like Kirby Dach. Okay, that's a name that Seravalli mentioned was not on their untouchable list. You have Dominik Kubalik over there. You have, of course, Dylan Strome is still on the block, but also one Alex DeBrincat is also absent from that untouchable list. So what gives? Does this mean the Blackhawks would realistically trade Alex DeBrincat? Well, let's go over onto another quote that Seravalli had. This is the same show on Halford and Bruff in the morning on Sportsnet 650. My sense is the Chicago Blackhawks know they need to shake things up. Regarding the trade deadline, Alex DeBrincat, Hagel, and Dominik Kubalik are all potentially available. And so, having it set in writing like that made things really, really frantic for Chicago Blackhawks fans looking at their team and saying, okay, DeBrincat is a mid to early 20s goal scorer. He's a good player. He produces points. Have we traded away players like this in the past? Yeah, they have. Talk about Toivo Teravainen. Talk about Artemi Panarin. Talk about the Chicago Blackhawks giving up on young, budding forwards who eventually become stars in the NHL. DeBrincat had a 40-goal season, like at 21, 22 years old. So this guy is already a star, in my opinion. Alex DeBrincat, if you go over the profile here, 24, as we said, 5'7", 165. That's pretty much the entire reason why he was drafted in the second round in the 2016 NHL Entry Draft. Had he just been, like, the height of my cell phone taller, he would have been a bona fide first-round pick. But with the Erie Otters in his draft season, he had 101 points in 60 games played, 51 goals, 50 assists. He was absolutely spectacular. Making the NHL, though, in 2017-2018, he started off his campaign with a 28-goal year, getting 52 points in the 82-game campaign. Then 2018-19 rolls around. This is his 40-goal year, 76 total points. He's under a point per game. And you got to remember, he's only 21 at this point. So there is indeed a very, very solid, very young player profile that is due for success. Even last year, he had 32 goals in 52 games played. Do the math on that. He was on pace for 50 goals. So DeBrincat, man, he is one of the younger, underrated players in this entire hockey league. This season, he's got 32 points in 40 games played, playing on a bad Chicago Blackhawks team that's definitely quite impressive. 23 goals in the 40-game campaign he has is on pace for, let's do the math right here, 40 multiplied out by 82, he's got a 47-goal pace, which is astounding. However, we had ourselves Elliotte Friedman making an appearance on NHL Tonight, talking about the status of DeBrincat and a trade. They ask him on the show, okay, everybody is talking about DeBrincat because there was that report that the only untouchables on Chicago are Toews, Kane, and Jones. What are your thoughts? Friedman says that DeBrincat would likely not be traded, but the only way he would be traded is if you look at the package in return and you go, oh, so that's why they traded him. Pretty much, the package has to be so gosh darn big that the Chicago Blackhawks are going to have to say yes to any sort of DeBrincat trade if you were to see a DeBrincat trade actually be made. The haul that Chicago is pretty much going to require in this kind of situation has to be huge. Now, honestly, in my opinion, that explanation is sort of duh moment, because, like, everybody is technically on the market for that price, right? Like, the only way you would trade McDavid is, firstly, if he asks for it. Secondly, if you get a package in return that makes you say, oh, that's why you traded McDavid. You could say that about literally anybody, but the point that Friedman is making here is that unless that happens, unless the Blackhawks receive a very big package, Alex DeBrincat is not going anywhere. Which is probably the right move, in my opinion. Like, if you wanted to go out there and say that the Chicago Blackhawks are building for the future, you know, it's the end of Taves and Kane and Keith and Seabrook and Crawford, all these guys, they're gone. Most of them are gone already. It's only Taves and Kane that are left. You need guys to build in the future for, and DeBrincat is 24 years old. This guy signed an extension with you guys. He's making $6.4 million a year. Till the end of 2023. It was a very good, healthy bridge contract right here. And I get it, maybe the Chicago Blackhawks don't want to go out there and potentially pay DeBrincat even more money. By the time 2023 rolls around, you know, that offseason comes and then DeBrincat is 25, 26 years old. He is smack dab in the middle of his prime. Maybe he gets a 40, 50 goal season under his belt again. And maybe the Blackhawks would say, okay, we kind of want to focus on the longer term future over here. That's like the only rationale in my mind that makes sense as to why you would even think about trading DeBrincat. But depending on what that return is, dude, it's kind of up in the air. Like, when I think about trading Alex DeBrincat, I think about trading a 40-goal scorer on most teams. He's playing on Chicago right now, and he's still got a 40-goal pace. And he's pretty much a guy that personifies the way the league is going right now. As I said, he's only 5'7", which is why he was drafted so late, but because the NHL is heading towards a more smaller, speedier, skilled type of game, okay, smaller might not be the right adjective to describe it, but you get what I mean. Smaller players can thrive in today's NHL in ways they couldn't have 10 years ago. And guys like DeBrincat are taking full advantage of that. And so, to wrap everything up, my mind immediately goes to all the other young, star-studded forwards that the Blackhawks have traded away when I think about the idea of trading Alex DeBrincat. Panarin was traded 2 seasons after his debut, where he had 70-point campaigns in both of his years. He has been an absolute star, and I guess a lot of Blackhawks fans are going out there saying, yeah, I probably would have had Panarin instead of Brandon Saad for the latter half of the 2010s. Then you also have Teuvo Teravainen as well, who, granted, is not as talented as Artemi Panarin in terms of point production, but he did have a 76-point year a few years after being acquired by Carolina, so he's another one of these guys that was given up on a little bit too soon. And what in the heck was the trade return for Teravainen? Let's go down here on Elite Prospects and try to figure that out here. Chicago Blackhawks to Carolina Hurricanes. It was Brian Bickle and Teuvo Teravainen in exchange for a 2016 second and a 2017 third? Okay, we didn't think that Teuvo Teravainen would have been that good, did we? My gosh, what a bad trade that was. So, at the very least, even though Stan Bowman isn't here to make that kind of move anymore, the guy who is in charge is kind of his protege, so I would probably start being a bit concerned when it comes to the amount of trades that the Blackhawks are going to be doing, but we'll see. Obviously, Friedman and Seravalli just threw out a couple of names. Carpenter, Hagel, Kubalik, DeBrincat. Kubalik is another good one that I think deserves his entire own conversation, but it's not a very good conversation to be having either way. And then, of course, Kirby Dach, which I actually haven't seen mentioned anywhere on these conversations, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that guy. But either way, talk to me in the comments, what do you think about the idea of trading in Alex DeBrincat? What is that package that you would say yes to? Because Friedman laid it out on the line, yeah, you need to get a package if you're Chicago that would absolutely make things 100% bona fide a win for you guys in order to trade DeBrincat. You're not trading DeBrincat for a first and a second and a prospect. You're going to get a package that might be seen as an overpayment. What is that package to you? Talk to me in the comments what that is. Honestly, in my opinion, when we take a look at stars that get traded, we always say that the package is really huge. Talk about Jack Eichel, talk about Lionel, talk about Dubois, talk about all these big-name players. We usually get disappointed with the packages, don't we? Erik Karlsson is the one that I always refer to as one that was seen as somewhat of a dud for Ottawa right away. Of course, long-term, it's paid off very well, but there is indeed a reputation that top NHL stars have of not fetching the best returns possible unless you're Matt Duchene in a three-way trade. So talk to me in the comments on your thoughts about DeBrincat. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.